All right, Mr. Loggery here. Today we're going to talk about slope from tables. But first, let's go over slope really quick, okay? Slope, because we're measuring the steepness of a line. And we've done this on a graph, but you can do it with the table too. But slope is the change in y over the change in x. It's always a fraction, it's a ratio. We also say it's the rise over the run. So the vertical part, the part that goes up and down, is going to be on top of the fraction. And the part that goes side to side, my arrows aren't very good, but side to side, that goes on the bottom. That's the run. Okay, so let's look at one. Slope from a table. So first off, let's look at this. When you see this little triangle y, triangle x over here, that's delta y and delta x. Delta is just a Greek letter that means change. Okay, it's not complicated. It looks crazy. So we're measuring the change in y on top of the fraction and the change in x on the bottom. So let's talk about what that means. Let's look over here at our y column, okay? We don't need all these numbers. All we need is 2 of them. So we're going to look at the difference between 4 and 10. And you can tell that's getting bigger by 6. From 4 to 10, that gets bigger by 6. You can also take this number and just subtract the first number, and they'll give you the difference also, okay? So this is the change in y. So we're going to come up here. Change in y is 6. Then we're going to do the same thing over here with the x. So we're going to look at from 1 to 2. That's getting bigger by 1. You can also do this one minus this one. So if you do 2 minus 1, you get positive 1. So the change in x is 1. Oops. There we go. Once you have these two differences, the change in y and the change in x, all you got to do is just put it into a fraction. So if you look over here, the change in y goes on top. That's this 6. So we have a 6 on top. The change in x is 1. It goes on bottom. And then all you have to do is simplify your fraction. So the slope is 6. Positive 6 for that one. Okay, always simplify your fractions. And if you're in my class, you can use the N over D button on the calculator. Punch that in, hit enter, and if it can simplify, it'll simplify the fraction for you. All right, let's look at another one. All right, find the slope represented by the table. We want to get this change in y, and then we want to get the change in x. Then we're just going to put them in this form right here, okay? So the change in y, we are going from 14 to 9. That is going down by 5, so that's a negative 5. You can also do 9 minus 14 equals negative 5. I didn't write that very clear, but it's a negative 5. So the change in y is negative 5. The change in x, we're going from 2 to 4. That's getting bigger by 2. And you can do 4 minus 2, and that'll give you that 2. So the change in x is 2. Now that we have these numbers, we just put them in order. The change in y goes on top, negative 5 on top. The change in x goes on the bottom, 2 down here. So the slope is negative 5 over 2, and that will not simplify. Okay, and you're done. Once your fraction, once you have it in simple terms, it's done. And if you type negative 5 over 2 using the N over D button on the calculator, it will tell you it's negative 5 over 2. If you hit enter, if it gives you the same number, it's simplified already. Okay, let's look at a horizontal table. You do it the exact same way with this change in y over change in x. Now you're just going sideways, okay? So let's look at the change in y's. We're going from negative 12 to negative 8. That's getting bigger by 4. If you're not sure, do negative 8 minus negative 12. That becomes negative 8. These become a plus 12, and that gives you 4. Okay, so the change in y is 4 because we're doing the y's right here. The change in x is from negative 1 to 0. That's getting bigger by 1. If you do 0 minus negative 1, you get 0 plus 1, which is 1. Now the hard part's done for us already. Now we got to do is make it a fraction. 4 over 1. The y's on top, x's on bottom. Simplify the fraction. Anytime you have a 1 on the bottom, it goes away, and you've just got 4. There's your slope right there. All right, let's do one more horizontal table. So we're going to look at the change in y first. 7 to 3, that's getting smaller by 4. And if you do 3 minus 7, you'll get negative 4. So our delta y is negative 4. That just means the change in the y values. Okay? Change in the x values from negative 5 to negative 3, that's getting bigger by 2. And if you do negative 3 minus negative 5, those minus a negative means add. So negative 3 plus 5 equals 2. So the change in x is 2. Put the change in y on top. The change in x on the bottom. Negative 4 over 2 will simplify to negative 2. There's your slope. And that's how you find slope from a table. All right, bye.